back on. I hear it.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. We'll get started here in a minute. Mr. Chair, first of all, wonderful hat. Second of all, Commissioner Bolton will be on in about 2 or 3 minutes.
Okay, we'll just wait for him.
Mr. Chair, I see while we're waiting, someone from the public has actually raised their hand with a cell phone, entering in 258. I don't know if you want to see what they have to say.
Let's see why don't you unmute yourself? Let me know why you have your hand raised. Got 2 hands up. Well, was that?
Hi, Chair LePage. It's Michael McWalters. I have a 3-minute presentation when you're ready for me.
Okay, well, we haven't started the meeting yet, so just hang tight and we'll get to that.
Okay, good. Thank you. I'll put myself back on mute then.
Great. Okay, we'll get you in a minute, Michael. Thanks. We're just waiting for Commissioner Bolton. He said he'd be a couple minutes, and then we're going to get started.
Hello, welcome.
Hi.
Nice hat, Mike.
You might be our only person today. We'll see, yeah.
Oh, is that Commissioner Bolton in the chamber?
No, sir, we have
No,
a
no.
member of the public that's joining.
There you are. There you are.
The usual flower painting.
Yes. Okay. So all the commissioners are here, so I'm going to call the meeting to order. This is the December 14th regular meeting of the Planning Commission for Carmel-by-the-Sea. Can we have roll call, please?
Yeah, for the
Do we have our secretary here? Or?
Carpenter and
Okay.
I believe Brandon is
That's
going to be
the
acting.
Third item. Yeah, yep. Sorry, Mr. Chair, I was just explaining to some members of the public what was going on.
Oh, okay. All right.
If you asked me a question, I did not hear it, so if you want to repeat it.
I just called the meeting to order and called for roll call.
Oh, great. Okay, I will be doing that today. Commissioner Bolton,
Here, present.
Commissioner Allen,
Here.
Commissioner LePage,
Here?
Commissioner Delves,
Here.
and Commissioner Locke is absent today.
Okay, thank you. Before we get started, I want to wish everybody happy holidays. So once a year, I get a chance to wear this hat in public. Okay, and our first item on the agenda tonight are the public appearances. Members of the public at this time can speak to the commission on any matters of municipal concern. Comments should be limited to 3 minutes. We have a hand up. I believe that's Mr. McWalters or Walters. I'm not sure if I got that right. Anyway, Michael, unmute yourself. You have the floor for 3 minutes.
Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner LePage. Good afternoon. And good afternoon to the Commissioners Locke and Bolton and Allen and Delves. Merry Christmas. Last weekend, I was reading the Design Traditions 1.5 draft. I was pleasantly surprised and happy to see the term forest canopy prominent throughout the document. And then it occurred to me that the wireless cell tower antennas that we're writing an ordinance for, they require what's called line of sight in order to work properly. And practically speaking, what does line of sight mean? Line of sight means that there can be nothing in the way. There cannot be any trees or tree branches on a straight line between cell tower antennas, or the antennas won't work. What's that mean? It means trees and tree branches that are in the way of the cell tower antennas have to be removed. Trees and tree branches that are part of our forest canopy will have to be removed. That's bad for our forest canopy to be removing trees and tree branches, given how important our trees are. Therefore, in order for us to protect and preserve our forest canopy, it's incumbent upon us to have in our ordinance, our wireless telecom ordinance, a requirement that the telecom companies use the 4 Andrew Campanelli tests that are in the draft ordinance he wrote for Carmel-by-the-Sea. These 4 tests that we will require the telecom companies to use will either prove they have a gap in service, or these tests will prove they do not have a gap in service. These tests are important and necessary in order for us to protect and preserve our forests. We do not want the wireless companies coming in here and saying, oh my goodness, we're so sorry that we have to cut down some of your trees, and we're also sorry you are upset, and you should have written a requirement in your ordinance that we have to prove to you there's a gap in service, but you didn't. Ha ha ha. You guys were asleep at the wheel, which begs the question, why doesn't Gail Karish in her draft ordinance require the wireless companies to prove to us they have a gap in service? Why is that? Campanelli does. He makes the wireless companies use 4 tests to prove there's a gap in service. In her draft ordinance, Gail Karish also has several other deficiencies which are shocking. She allows cell towers in the R1, which means cell towers are allowed in the golden rectangle. There are also no setback requirements, and there's no minimum distance between the cell tower antennas. These are the reasons we need Andrew Campanelli's wireless ordinance, because Campanelli is on our side. Why are we paying Gail Karish to represent the wireless companies in our ordinance? We do not want to be known as cell towers by the sea. Lastly, I'm a Verizon customer on Scenic, and my cell service is excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there anyone else that would like to address the Planning Commission at this time regarding matters which are not on our agenda tonight? If so, put your hand up or raise your hand so I can see you. Anybody in the council chambers that wants to speak to the Planning Commission?
I don't believe so. Mr. Chair.
Okay, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. Are there any announcements this evening from staff or commissioners? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are routine in nature and do not require discussion or independent action. Members of the commission or the public may ask that items be considered individually for purposes of commission discussion and/or public comment. We have 4 items on the consent agenda tonight. Number 1 is adoption of the Planning Commission meeting minutes from November 9th. Number 2 is the monthly activity report from the Planning and Building Department for November. Number 3 is adoption of the meeting calendar for the Planning Commission for the coming year, 2023. And the last is item number 4, which is a design study. It's DS 22-278, the Snell project. This is a final design study, and it is on the consent agenda. Are there any members of the commission want any items pulled for discussion on the consent agenda?
Mr. Chairman, can you pull number 3, please?
Okay, so we're going to pull the calendar. Any other items from the public? Does the public have any items they want pulled for questions or discussion? Okay, in that case, the chair will make a motion to adopt items number 1, 2, and 4 under combined motion for those items. Do we have a second?
I second.
Okay, can we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Allen,
Yes.
Commissioner Bolton,
Yes.
Commissioner Delves,
Yes.
Commissioner LePage,
Yes. Okay,
and
the
Commissioner
motion-
Locke is absent.
Yes, okay. Motion is carried. Okay, at this time, we will have discussion about the adoption of the meeting calendar. Commissioner Dells, why don't you go ahead? You had some comments.
Yeah, a couple of times in the past, I've suggested that we consider moving our meeting time forward in the day, an hour or 2. And I thought this might be an opportunity to put that back on the table. And just a little bit of background is, I think you all know I've done this similar role as well as being on a city council in a previous setting. And one of the things we did while I was there was moved our meetings from 4 p.m. To some cases 8 a.m., but in general 10 a.m. And the response was overwhelmingly positive. Staff preferred it more. The vast majority of the elected officials and all of the appointed officials enjoyed it more, and most applicants and citizens enjoyed it more. And with that, I think on average we go 4.5 hours, and it is not unheard of us for us to go 5.5 hours, and our meetings to go almost till 10 o'clock. And I don't know about you, but I start to lose my effectiveness at about 8. Some might argue earlier, but I just sometimes think by going so late, it's almost a disservice to the public. So anyway, I want to just open it up. Stephanie's not here, so I don't think it would be fair to put anything up for a vote. But I was just looking for some feedback. And Brandon, I know you did a little research as to the question, can we do this? So let me go to you on that. And then maybe you can even provide some direction about this. I guess what I would like to maybe have as an outcome is that maybe on the next agenda, we could put a motion on the table and have a vote on it. But Brandon, maybe you can fill us in on the rules.
Have some comments, Brandon?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Through the chair. So we do I did do some research on this. So the meeting time right now is not codified in the municipal code. In fact, the municipal code to these types of matters defers to what we have worked through before in the rules of procedure, which I have up in front of you right now as I'm sharing our screen. This is the most current version. If you recall, the last time we modified this had to do with site visits. So section D1 relates to the meeting time. Right now, it does say that the meetings will commence at 4 p.m. However, because the municipal code gives the Planning Commission the authority to modify this, you could do that. You could make this whatever time you wanted, essentially. And then further to that, at the very end, it talks about the authority to change. And I'll scroll down quickly. Rules and procedures may be amended or suspended at any meeting of the Planning Commission by a majority of the members. So you don't have to adopt a resolution. It's a simple majority vote. It sounds like Commissioner Delves would be making the suggestion to come back at the next meeting so all 5 commissioners could be present. You do technically have the authority to make that decision tonight by a simple majority. So that is up to you, but it's completely within your purview if you want to move the time up or back or whatever you want to do.
Okay, thank you, Brandon. Well, we'll just have this, I'll just poll the commissioners are here. I think that we should wait till we have all the members present before we vote on it. Sounds like we can do this anytime. And Commissioner Delves seems like he's agreeable to that too. So having said that, Commissioner Bolton, would you like to make a comment on this?
Yeah, I'm exceptionally against it. It eliminates my ability or other people who have to work's ability to participate in the system, both on the commission side and in the public. I find it to be an elitist suggestion, and I'm completely against it. I think we need to be able to make this accessible to as many people as possible. There's no possibility that I could give up an entire day to do this. I have to work, and there's absolutely not. A complete and total non-starter.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Bolt. Commissioner Allen.
So I do work in corporate America, and for me to, I mean, I would need to work this out in terms of taking vacation or something like that, because as it stands right now, it is a little bit concerning to my boss for me to take, you know, what I currently take. So, if we were to change it, I would like it to start really early in the morning so that I could at least have half of the day to go back to work. So that might be something that could potentially work for me, but otherwise it is kind of a hardship for me to always be taking days off.
Okay. Yeah, I'm self-employed and I don't work full time, so I have, you know, options, but other people don't. And I think one of the things we want to do, though, is we want to make these meetings as accessible as possible to the public, and we also have to make them accessible as possible to the commissioners or potential commissioners to that may apply in the future for these positions when they become vacant. So, although I don't really, I mean, whether I can see the benefits of, you know, having a little earlier meeting. I mean, the biggest thing is that I don't like, and I think what Commissioner Delves expresses, when these meetings go late. I think it's really hard. We don't always have a chance to eat. I know myself, when I start to get low blood sugar, I get a little fuzzy, and I'm not as effective as Commissioner Delves pointed to, but I don't think he was trying to be personal with me. But anyway, so we can take up a vote on this at the next meeting if we have a full commission here.
Can I one point?
Yeah, Commissioner Delves, you have some follow-up comments?
Yeah, Chris, I hear you. And Aaron, maybe just a parting thought, maybe think about moving it up 1 hour to start at 3. And just
That's reasonable. Yeah, obviously the issue is the length.
Yeah.
If we start a little bit earlier, I understand that. But starting at 8 a.m. eliminates an entire day for people on this. There's absolutely no way.
I'm sorry, that wasn't even my proposal. I was suggesting, I was going to throw out a 2 o'clock start time. If we wanted to go to 3, just to try it, to give ourselves one less hour in the evening, I think that would be a win.
Yeah, no problem with 3 at all.
Well, yeah.
But it does push this tour earlier, so that's the consideration.
And that's what I was just going to say.
Tighten up the tour so the tours aren't 2 hours, because a 2-hour tour starting that means 1 o'clock, and once again, that's a no. So I mean, if we could keep the tours something like an hour, so we could, you know, get this to be more efficient. The answer to the time length of these meetings is not to, you know, change the time. It's to be more efficient in our meetings, change the number of meetings per number of items per meeting, things like that. And I think that Brendan and Chair are already working on that on a weekly basis, trying to be as efficient as possible. And I do believe that we get caught out sometimes when we just get a huge number of applications, and I'm afraid there's very little we can do about that. So a couple times a year, we're going to have truly ugly meetings, and I'm afraid that's probably unavoidable. But I think they have already gotten better in the last year as far as the timing and the efficiency. So I'm pretty confident that we can resolve this in a mixture of ways.
And then a couple other comments, and that is number one, if we have new guidelines, do we believe that potentially that will help streamline the process? And then also, I wanted to ask Brandon, in the guideline discussions and the community discussions, one of the things that was asked is, are they going to add another committee in order to support the Planning Commission around design? And I didn't ever hear any more about that.
Yeah, that's through the chair. That's a great question. That's still undecided at this point. There are conversations about bringing back a body that actually used to exist here in the city called the Design Review Board. So there has been a discussion about that, the formation of it, its relationship to the Planning Commission, whether it's part of a two-step, one punch, two punch, Design Review Board, then Planning Commission, or if it's a whole separate process. That hasn't quite been settled yet, and we're going to be working on that over the next couple months.
Yeah, there's going to be further discussion about that. I know in the past when we've had issues or applications which we know are going to have a lot of discussion, we have a separate special meeting. We've done that. I think we did one on one of the wireless ordinance already. So that's a possibility. I think for me, the biggest challenge is if the meetings go too late. It just gets to be pretty hard. And once we get into the 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock range, I think everybody starts to feel it. So, okay, I think that kind of concludes discussion on that, unless anybody else has any further comments.
So it sounds like, Mr. Chair, I'll agendize an item then for next month to at least have the conversation. It sounds like the proposal on the table is to move the meeting up an hour. That's what I'll agendize that, say, discussion, the possibility about moving the start time from 4 o'clock to 3 o'clock.
Okay, and to finish off the consent agenda, I think we need a motion to adopt the monthly calendar still. So I'll make that motion.
I second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Bolton?
Yes.
Commissioner Delves?
Yes.
Commissioner LePage?
Yes.
And Commissioner Locke is absent.
Okay, the motion is carried. Okay, we don't have any orders of business tonight. So the next item are the public hearings. Before we get started, I just want to go over the procedures and the times for the public hearings. Public hearings will be conducted in the order in which they are on the agenda. Once an item on a public agenda, public hearing is introduced by the chair, the staff will give their report. That will be followed up by questions by the commissioners. After that time, the applicant or the applicant's representative will be able to make their presentation. They will be given 5 minutes with a 2-minute rebuttal time. The public will be allowed 3 minutes to make their comments. Okay, so I think that kind of sets that the rules up for that. So the first item on the public hearing tonight is item number 5. It's a use permit. It's 22-320 Forge in the Forest, but this item is going to be continued. So we need to make a motion that, but before we do, are there any comments from staff about this?
No, Mr. Chair, this is just a request from the applicant to continue a little bit more work with staff on development of the use permit before bringing it back to you. So that's the scoop, and we'll hear from the public, and then you all can make a choice on it.
Okay, so are there any comments from the public regarding the continuation, not regarding the application? Okay, I don't see any hands going up. So in that case, the chair will make a motion that we continue this item to a date uncertain.
I can second that.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Bolton?
Yes.
Commissioner Delves?
Yes.
Commissioner LePage?
Yes.
And Commissioner Locke is absent.
Motion is carried to continue the item to a date uncertain. Okay, the next item is number 6. This is a design study 22-135, the May project. This has also been requested to be continued to a date uncertain. Does staff have any comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a little bit different situation. This one has to be continued. Unfortunately, the applicant team did not get their required noticing up in time for us to legally meet those requirements. So we cannot legally hear this item because the noticing was not done properly.
Okay, I stand corrected. It was, the applicant didn't meet the noticing requirements. That's why this is being continued. Okay, are there any comments from the public regarding the continuation? Okay, hearing none, seeing none, Chair makes a motion to continue this item to a date uncertain. Is there a second?
I can second that.
Okay, can we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Allen,
Yes.
Commissioner Bolton,
Yes.
Commissioner Delves,
Yes.
Commissioner LePage,
Yes.
and Commissioner Locke is absent.
The motion to continue the item is carried. Okay, the next item on our agenda is item number 7. This is a design study. This is design study 21-243. This is the Harriman project. This is consideration of a continued final design for the construction of a 2-story residence and detached garage on a vacant lot located at the northwest corner of Carpenter Street and 5th Avenue. We have the staff report, please.
Thank you, Chair LePage. Let's see. Okay, so before you this afternoon is the final design study for the Harriman project. The project is located at the northwest corner of Carpenter and 5th. So the project is a 1,800 square foot 2-story residence with an attached garage on a currently vacant lot, 4,000 square feet in size. The project also includes an attached accessory dwelling unit. At the December 8th, 2021 concept design study hearing, the concept design was not accepted. The Planning Commission did give direction to the applicant to make some substantial design changes and come back with a revised concept design. So that did occur in March of this year. The applicant presented a revised concept in response to the direction given by the Planning Commission. And at the conclusion of that hearing, the Planning Commission provided these 12 items as draft conditions for the applicant to address before coming back for a final design study. So we are here this afternoon with the final design study. One of the requirements was for the applicant to provide a preliminary landscape plan, which they have done. The forester has reviewed the plan and approved the plant palette. Staff did receive some comments from the west neighbor about the size of the required tree replantings. So the project is required to provide 1 upper canopy tree and 1 lower canopy tree. The applicant has proposed these at 5 gallons. However, in speaking with the city forester, replacement trees are required to be a minimum of 15 gallons. And so that has been made a special condition of approval. Additionally, the west neighbor had concerns about the upper canopy tree conflicting with lower canopy trees in the front yard. And then also concerns about the lower canopy tree along 5th Avenue taking up an existing parking space in the right-of-way. The neighbor did request that the project be reviewed by the Forest and Beach Commission. However, staff does feel that the Planning Commission can review and adopt conditions and that the project does not need to go back to Forest and Beach. Additionally, some concerns expressed about the pathway stones not being accounted for in the site coverage. The neighbor is requesting that they be replaced with gravel for better on-site percolation of rainwater. And then also has some concerns about the amount of space available for the tall screen trees that are proposed along the west property line. So again, in response to those concerns, the forester is requiring 15-gallon replacement trees for both the upper and lower canopy. The forester also is recommending that the upper canopy tree be relocated to 5th Avenue, away from existing power lines on Carpenter Street. And this has been included as a condition of approval number 36. Also, the final location of the trees does require forester approval. She did review the concern about the tree taking up a parking space, but feels that planting trees in the right of way is appropriate and certainly will take into consideration availability of parking, but not necessarily preclude the planting of the tree. Also, staff did verify the pathway stones are accounted for in the site coverage, and the project does comply with our site coverage standards. And the tall screen trees are proposed to be a boxwood hedge. There does appear to be sufficient space for those, although they might require more maintenance as far as trimming to fit the space. Following the concept hearing in March, the Planning Commission had directed the applicant to make modifications at the northeast corner of the residence to protect an oak tree limb. And so if you can see the comparison, sorry. The applicant has made some modifications to the building footprint, so the project will not conflict with the oak tree limb. And then also to maintain a 6-foot setback to the redwood tree. And you can see that it does, the building is right at that 6-foot setback line. There is a critical root zone that extends beyond that 6-foot area. And so any excavation beyond this green circle that you see does need prior approval by the city forester. And this is really just to ensure that any structural roots that support the tree are protected throughout construction. One of the other things the applicant was asked to do was to show the tree protection zones on the site plan, which they have done. Staff wants to kind of note that the tree protection zones are different from the structural root zones. So what you see on the plan here is the tree protection zone. And what that means is these are the areas that must be fenced during construction. The fencing does need to be maintained for the duration of construction of the project. And the forester requires that wood mulch be placed within these zones, again, to protect the trees throughout construction. So this is different from the structural root zones, which are not shown on this plan, but these structural root zones are smaller in diameter. And these are the areas where the excavation or change in grade requires the forester's approval. And any excavation that the forester approves must be done with a pneumatic excavator, a hydrovac at low pressure, or another method that does not sever roots. And again, these are the structural roots that keep, keep these the trees healthy. And of course, our standard requirement that no roots greater than 2 inches can be cut without the forester's approval. So all of these requirements have been included as conditions of approval. The applicant acknowledges this is a challenging site with a number of constraints, and that extra care is going to need to be taken during construction to ensure that the remaining trees on site are protected. Another requirement that came out of the concept hearing was for the applicant to prepare a preliminary grading and drainage plan. This plan has been prepared by a licensed civil engineer. It has been reviewed extensively by our environmental compliance manager. We've also gotten input from our street superintendent in public works. And there's been much discussion about how to manage stormwater on site, especially with a design that is a single-story home and covers a significant area of the lot. So the West neighbor had submitted some comments on the drainage plan. Some concerns expressed was that the entrance to the ADU being 4 feet below grade warrants the addition of a retaining wall, and the ADU is located or is proposed at that northwest corner of the property. The neighbor also had concerns about the location of the rain garden in that same area, whether or not the rain garden capacity was sufficient or effective due to the slopes on the lot. There were concerns expressed about a lack of retaining walls in this area and about the project's impact to his garage. The neighbor did request that a strong retaining wall be added and also requested that any stormwater overflow be connected to the city's storm drain. So in response to those comments and concerns, the applicant did add a retaining wall around the entrance to the ADU. The top of the wall elevation is at 49 feet and the finished floor of the ADU is at 46 feet. So a 3-foot elevation difference. The addition of the wall will require a redesign of the rain garden. So that is something that is not currently reflected on the drainage plan and will be further evaluated during the building permit submittal. The environmental compliance manager did review the location of the retaining wall and does believe that a solution can be worked out where both the wall and the rain garden can be accommodated in this area. Also, the Public Works Department has agreed to allow any stormwater overflow to connect to the city's storm drain. Another comment that came out of the concept design study was to reduce the number of subordinate roof elements, reduce the roof pitch, and identify all of the exterior materials. The applicant has responded to each of these comments. On the east elevation, which faces Carpenter Street, the design has been considerably simplified with the gable roof form. There are no more projecting windows or shed roof projections. The roof pitch has also been reduced. And part of that also came out of the volume study. So that kind of helped achieve both a simpler design as well as compliance with our volume standards. And as you can see on the south elevation, all of the exterior finishes have been clearly identified. The applicant was also directed to update the solar study based on the design changes that were implemented. And so a new solar study has been prepared. It shows 3 times a day during the winter solstice, the fall spring equinox, and the summer solstice. And based on the updated solar study, the applicant does not believe there will be a significant shade impact to the neighbor to the north. They do have a south-facing deck. The U-shape of the property and the west wing of their home does cast some shadows over the deck. So you can see at 12 noon, it is part shade during the winter solstice, mostly sunny during the fall and spring equinox, and then mostly sunny as well during the summer solstice. So the applicant was also directed to select an alternative wall-mounted light fixture that meets the city's lighting requirements. You can see the design of the fixture there in the upper right-hand corner. This fixture does comply with the requirement that the light element be shielded. It also complies with our lumen levels. It is under the 375 lumens. The applicant is proposing 6 wall-mounted lights, which are identified in the red circles, and then also 8 landscape or path lights, which are identified with the blue circles. The applicant was also asked to provide fencing details. So in the bottom left, you can see the proposed fence design. This would be for the 4-foot fence along Carpenter Street and along 5th Avenue. This is identified in the blue line. And then the green line is a proposed 6-foot fence that would be in both the rear and the interior side yards. And with that, staff is recommending approval of the final design study. Some of the special conditions include a requirement for a pre-construction meeting, and this will be to review all of the conditions of approval and expectations during construction with the contractor. The applicant will also be required to sign a conditions of approval acknowledgement form that they have read and understood all the conditions imposed on the project. And then also special conditions regarding the type, size, and location of the required tree plantings. And with that, that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for staff from the commissioners?
I was just wondering if we could see a comparison between the old elevation and the new, so we could get a picture of how it's changed. As you said, they simplified it for our request.
Let me see what I can do to pull that up.
I'll add, please. Sorry.
Of course. So it is going to take me a few moments, but I will get
so
that.
maybe,
Actually
Mr. Chair, while
wait till
Marnie's
my
doing that, we
discussion
can move
period.
on to other comments and we can come back to it.
Okay.
You can just
are
do
there
that
any
during
other-
my final, when I have my comments, and then show it then. It doesn't really matter.
Do you want, okay. Do any of the other commissioners have any questions for Marnie? Okay. I guess we could go on. You have some comments you want to make, Commissioner Bolton?
No, just in general, all I was saying is that I don't need this instant. I can wait till the comment period for the commissioners when it's each our turn to speak, and she can show it then. It's not, there's no rush, in other words. So you can move on to letting the
Okay, so we'll
applicant speak or
move
whatever.
on.
Yeah.
We'll move on, and then
Thank you very much.
staff is able to provide that. We'll do that. Okay, at this time, the applicant or the applicant's representative can speak to the commission regarding this application. I think Alan Lehman is, yeah, there he is.
Hello, commissioners. Thanks for your time today and ongoing. I know there's a lot of effort that goes into doing this job. So as Marnie clearly addressed and pointed out, the comments that we received at the last meeting were received, and we did our best to accommodate every one of those items, both in ongoing concerns that the neighbors had throughout these last few months, and especially in the last month. As we got closer to this meeting, we've made some, minor tweaks to drainage, or, had discussions with staff regarding changing tree locations. We're completely on board with all of the suggestions. We think the comments that came out of the last meeting move the project in the right direction to make it a better project for, Carmel and the site itself. So I don't have a lot more to add other than we're pleased with the design at this point and hope to move forward towards construction documents.
Thank you, Alan. Are there any questions from the commissioners for the designer? Okay, I don't see any. Okay. Yeah, I forgot to mention that Commissioner Allen has to recuse herself from this particular item. That's why she's not partaking in this. Okay. I'll open it up to the public for their comments. Is there anyone from the public that would like to address? I see Tom has his finger up. So Tom, unmute yourself. You have the floor for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Tom Stevens, and I'm the neighbor to the west. First of all, I want to thank Alan for the changes that have been made. I appreciate the retaining wall in the northwest corner. And there's been a lot of changes as a result of the drainage plan, and we appreciate those changes, and it results in a much improved program. I have studied this drainage plan very carefully. I have discussed it a lot with Agnes and then with Rob Culver, as well as an independent consultant on drainage. I'm very happy to say that this is a good plan. it makes me pretty comfortable being west of this sloping hill. I did have 3 suggestions. All right, Marty discussed those suggestions. If the gravel idea doesn't make sense, I'm very happy to pass on that. Right, the other 2 suggestions I think have been picked up by both Agnes, all right, and Rob as things that make sense, connecting the overflow pipe into the city's storm system and limiting the use of the rain garden in the northwest corner. I think are simple ideas, easy to execute, and will make a much better plan. So, all right, I hope that you agree and that we get your approval, subject to adding these 2 conditions to your approval. It will make for a better, all right, plan than what we have right now. So thanks to Agnes and Rob and Marty. Marty, you did a nice job summarizing the issues, all right, and I wish you all a very happy holiday. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens, for your comments. Okay, we have somebody in the council chambers that wants to address the Planning Commission at this time. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. They're just making their way to the microphone right now. And you can pull it down if you want when you're speaking. You can pull your mask down.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Hi, I'm Sharon D. St. Jour, and I am a neighbor. And I was wondering about the parking available for this home. Anyone could.
Yes, the staff, you want to answer that, Marnie?
Can you be a little more specific?
As far as how many spaces would they be around the house and with the garage for the house?
So the project is required to provide 1 parking space.
Oh, that is
and that
all.
that parking space will be in the garage.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you for your question. Is there any other members of the public that would like to address the Planning Commission at this time regarding this application? You want to raise your hand?
Hi, this is David O'Neill.
Okay, Mr. O'Neill, go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to just point one thing out in my review of it, that we need to, this element of the design guidelines that says we need to keep it simple is somewhat subjective. And I don't think that this should mean that we have to make everything plain. So I hope that they are not going to remove any more details of this house. It looks very nice the way it is. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. O'Neill. Okay, is there anyone else from the public that would like to make a comment at this time? Raise your hand or speak up. Okay, I don't see any hands going up. So I'm going to close the public comments, bring it back to the commission for their comments. Commissioner Bolton, you want to start?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. First of all, I just want to thank Marnie for an excellent staff report. This is a easily explained or well explained kind of complicated issue. So, and a lot of things that we asked for last time. So nice to have you go through them for us. Thank you for getting these drawings up for us. The comparison between before and after. I think it's a big improvement. I appreciate the architect's design changes, simplifying this project. I think it's a lot better than it was. And I also appreciate the fact that they were willing to work with neighbors' ideas and together with the forester. And this seems to me to be a pretty good example of a cooperative applicant and the process working. So I appreciate everybody's efforts and I can support them.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Bolton. Commissioner Allen, would you like, or excuse me, Commissioner Delves, would you like to make your comments?
Yeah, I don't think I really have anything to add. Again, thank you to Mr. Stevens for demonstrating how to be neighborly and get a better outcome. Thank you to the architect for working with Mr. Stevens. Thank you to city staff. This is a good example of a project that has benefited from the public process. I have nothing else to add.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Delves. Yeah, I don't have anything to add either. I think Alan has really demonstrated his abilities and to design, come up with changes, listen to the public, work with the neighbors. I mean, this is really a textbook example of how this process should work. And as the designer acknowledged, he feels like we got a better design from it. So I want to thank everybody who's been involved in this. We have a resolution as per staff with their special conditions. Marnie went over the special conditions. I haven't heard anything from any of the commissioners to change that. So do we have a motion to accept the resolution as per staff?
So moved.
Okay.
Second that.
Okay, we have a motion to accept the resolution as per staff. Is there any more discussion?
Oh, thank you.
Hearing none, roll call, please.
Commissioner Allen? Oh, sorry, she's recused. Commissioner Bolton?
Yeah.
Commissioner Delves?
Yes.
Commissioner LePage?
Yes.
And Commissioner Locke is absent.
Okay, the motion to approve the project is carried. Thank you, everyone. Commissioner Allen's back. Okay, the next item on the public hearings tonight is another design review for a final consideration. This is design study 22-143, the Coria project, consideration of a continued final design study for the construction of a two-story residence on a vacant lot located on Mission Street, 3 North east of 10th Avenue in the single-family residential zone. Staff report, please.
Well, thank you, Chair LePage. I just need one second here to get my presentation ready.
There you go, Marnie, we can see it.
Wonderful. Okay, so this is a final design study for the Coria project. The project is located on Mission Street, just north of 10th Avenue. The applicant is proposing a 2,000 square foot two-story residence with attached garage. This also is a currently vacant lot. The project also includes an attached accessory dwelling unit. So on August 10th, the Planning Commission accepted the concept design study with conditions, primarily reevaluating the entry to the home so that it was more human scaled. The applicant returned on November 9th with a final design study, and the project was continued with direction to address some solar impacts that had been identified by the neighbor to the north. So just a quick recap, the north neighbor had concerns about the massing of the project, as well as impact to their solar access. The house to the north is currently under construction. It is also a two-story house, but it's a single level at grade with a lower level living space. The primary bedroom suite is located along the south side of the house, and they had concerns about their natural light being blocked by the proposed project, as well as potential impacts to their solar panels, which are also going to be south facing on the roof. So this is a comparison of the project as it's gone through the process. You can see the first concept design on the far left. In the middle was the original final design that was proposed in November. The entry was modified by removing the transom window above the front door and lowering the height of the door. And now the current final design is on the far right there. And the design modifications that have been made include lowering the residence. So the ridge height is 3.11 feet lower than what it was previously. Also, the roof pitch at the second floor has been reduced from 5 12 to 4 12. And then on the right side of the home, the plate height in the living room and at that front entry has been lowered from 12 feet down to 10 feet, 8 inches. So with these design changes, the applicant updated the solar study. This is a comparison. So the original solar study is at the top, and the revised solar study is at the bottom. And what ended up happening is not only did the north neighbors gain 2 months of natural light, but also the shading pattern is lower on the roof, so down towards the eave, which means that there should not be any conflicts with their solar panels. Also, staff did want to identify, we didn't discuss this at the last hearing, but this is final details. And one of the things that the Planning Commission had asked the applicant to do was look at the application of stone to make sure that it appeared structural and not, superficially applied. And so the applicant has opted, instead of doing a wainscot, he's opted to take the stone off of the project altogether. So the finish would just be stucco. Staff does feel that there are enough natural elements to balance out having a stucco home. However, it became apparent that the corbels were only treated on the front elevation and did not carry around throughout. So one of the special conditions that staff has drafted is that the corbels be used throughout the building so that this design element is consistent throughout. The commission also should consider whether if you feel that there needs to be some more natural element, a reintroduction of the stone to kind of balance out the stucco. You could require a full height stone. There are 2 logical stopping points, one at the interior corner next to the garage, and then on the south elevation at the deck. Staff did not include that as a condition, but it's certainly something that the commission could add should you feel that more natural materials would be appropriate. And with that, staff's recommendation is that you approve the final design study. The special conditions again include a pre-construction meeting, acknowledging the conditions of approval. This project is in the archaeological overlay, so it will require on-site monitoring during excavation. Also, the applicant will need to provide a right-of-way striping plan for the right-of-way directly in front of the project site, and then also addressing the wood corbels. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for staff from the commissioners?
I have one.
Mr. Bolton?
Marnie, are these corbels or rafter tails? I'm not trying to be picky, but there's a difference how they would appear. I think they're rafter tails, but you tell me, or
okay.
maybe the applicant can enlighten us, because these look like, decorative rafter tails that would be extensions of a theoretically a structure, and the corbel's a slightly different thing. They can have the same appearance potentially from the elevation side, but they wouldn't necessarily have the same appearance underneath the eave, and they don't serve the same function, not directly. So that's it. I guess I'll ask the applicant, but.
Sure.
Yeah, I think the applicant will be a better one to answer that. I had the same thought. I was kind of curious about that. Is there anyone else from any of the commissioners have any questions for the staff? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to invite the applicant to make a presentation to the Planning Commission.
Good evening, commissioners. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, very well. So the only thing I would like to add or answer the question in regards to the corbels, well, I mean, that answers the question. That they would actually be corbels. The only other comment that I want to make, I think, Marnie, thank you for, the great presentation. I think you pretty much covered the various strategies, suggestions made by the commissioners during the prior meeting, all with the intent of reducing the overall height. And as Marnie pointed out, we were able to achieve an overall height reduction of a little over 3 feet, 3 feet 1 inches to be exact. And just one other point, just want to emphasize is, if you look at the, future house, I'm now going to be about 2 feet below, the street level, which is fine. It still works, and I think it adequately addresses my neighbor's concern on the north as far as the shade and the impact on the solar panels. I don't have anything else to add other than a question that I posed during the on-site walkthrough is, I recall, based on my notes during the concept design, the forester had originally recommended that I plant 3 upper canopy trees, and I recall, and based on my notes, that the commissioners voted to only require me to have 1. So hopefully you can take that into consideration as well. And that's pretty much all I have to say, and more than happy to answer any questions.
So, Mr. Corey, those corbels are level that are coming out at the eaves. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So you have an enclosed soffit on the overhang, and then the corbels are.
Yes. I'm open to. Whatever I think the commissioners prefer. I'm open to either idea.
Okay, I'm just trying to get the question answered. What we're actually looking at there. Sounds like the calling those corbels is correct. Is that your understanding, Commissioner Bolton?
The drawings are unclear to me. I would say corbels are stylistically inappropriate, and rafter tails would be more appropriate, but that's not going to necessarily change my opinion of the overall project.
Okay.
Corbels, it's just a side discussion we don't need, and it seems like it's mostly me being picky about terminology.
Okay. All right. Okay. Are there any other questions for Mr. Correa from the commissioners? All right. Thank you. Okay. At this time, the public can make their comments regarding this application. I see Matt Evans has his hand up. Mr. Evans, you want to make your comments? You have 3 minutes.
I think the hand raise was on accident. I apologize for that.
Okay, not a problem. Okay, is there anyone else that would like to make some comments from the public? Okay, I don't see any. At the bottom of the screen, Mr. Evans, you can take your hand down. Just kind of put your cursor over that. You'll see the option. There you go. Okay, I'm gonna. I don't know if Mr. Corey has any additional comments. There's nothing to rebut, so I'm going to close the public comments, open it up to the commissioners for their comments. Commissioner Bolton, you want to begin?
Yeah, no, I appreciate the changes that were made to the project, especially the lowering of the looking from the street view, the right-hand side entry and that entire portion of the structure looks more in scale, and it's more, I like it better. So I appreciate the applicant's efforts. I think the loss of the stone wholesale is a bit of a disappointment. A little more interest in the overall, it would bring a little more interest to the design, and it would be, I like to have a little bit more of these natural materials when possible rather than stucco, which can sometimes look very stark. But I think it can be mitigated by your other details. For instance, these corbels will do something to help with the overall variation and design of the house, and I think it would be nice to definitely keep those going all the way around the house. And in general, I support this project at this point. I don't really have a ton of comments. I think the only issue I feel comfortable really making a comment on is a solar study. Although I did tour the homes on my own, I didn't tour this home with the commission and was therefore deprived of the ability to go on the neighbor's property to see what I thought in the field, but I can certainly take my fellow commissioners' opinions of that particular aspect into consideration in my overall opinion.
What was that aspect, Commissioner Bolton? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you very well.
The solar, wasn't there for this. Yeah, I didn't see it. I wasn't on site, and so I will have to listen to what you guys thought of it.
Okay, all right, thank you. I just wanted to make sure we got it. Okay, Commissioner Dells, you want to make some comments?
Yeah, my comments are probably very similar to the last one. Thank you to the North neighbor for speaking up clearly and helpfully and respectfully a month ago. I think it was your input that really alerted, at least I think all of us, the fact that we we really did have a solar issue. Thank you to the applicant for listening and doing exactly what we asked and lowering it 3 feet. I mean, that's proof that the process can work. Chris, to what I saw a month ago was that the neighbor's solar panels were not going to be even in the sun for a significant part of the year. And from what I saw in that solar study is that they will be in the sun. And that's not really the point. The real point is the solar benefit for that neighbor. And I think I read somewhere that the neighbor has said nothing else, which I'm going to take as he's okay. I don't know what a corbel is. I am fine with removing the stone. I do think there's enough interest in this home with the tile and the wrought iron and the door, which is now the appropriate size door, and the window and the garage door, that I think it's interesting, and I think it's adequate use of natural materials. So I'm good.
Thank you, Commissioner Dell. So Commissioner Allen, your comments, please.
Yeah, I can't add much more for, I do want to say that when I received the homework packet and I looked at the new renderings, I was very, very happy to see that it looks like everything fell in place, and it's just so much more integrated into the neighborhood, and the design looks cohesive. And so I'm really happy to see that. And to Commissioner Delv's point, it looks like the process works. And so I don't have anything additional to add. I am happy with this project.
Thank you, Commissioner Allen. Yeah, I don't have anything to add either. I just want to thank the applicant and neighbors working so well together. And I really want to especially thank the applicant, because he's the one that listened and really changed his design and bore the cost of that and the time. So that needs to be acknowledged. So we have a resolution from staff. Marnie once again went over the special conditions. I didn't hear any need for any additional special conditions. So do we have a motion for the resolution as per staff? Commissioner Delge, you have your...
Yeah, I'll make the motion, but I do want to answer the applicant's question. Condition number 23, tree planting requirements, does require 3 upper canopy trees. And that's the motion. I'm not going to move to change that because I believe that's what the forester asked for. And I don't remember us changing that. It wouldn't be like us to change that. So I will make a motion to approve the resolution provided by staff as is.
Second that.
Yeah, go ahead.
The motions are made and seconded to approve the resolution as per staff. Any more discussion? Hearing none, we got a roll call, please.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Bolton?
Yes.
Commissioner Delves?
Yes.
Commissioner LePage?
Yes.
And Commissioner Locke is absent.
Okay, the motion is carried to approve the project as per the resolution by staff. Thank you, everyone. Okay, next item on the public hearings tonight is item number 9. This is a design study. It's DS 22-300, the Hanson project. It is consideration of a concept design study for the demolition of an existing 1,611 square foot, 2-story single family residence, inclusive of a detached garage, and construction of a new 2,662 square foot, 2-story single family residence with a 237 square foot detached garage and a 347 square foot detached ADU located on Dolores Street, 3 northwest of 13th Avenue. Can we have staff report, please?
Thank you, Chair. This is the Hanson project, and it's a concept design study. And on November of 2022, there was a lot merger of 2 4,000 square foot lot merged to create an 8,000 square foot lot. And the lot merger affords the applicant a 3% increase in floor area, as well as a 2.5% increase in site coverage. The existing house is about 1,600 square feet, and it is inclusive of a 183 square foot detached garage. The lot also contains a 126 square foot shed, and the applicant is proposing demolition of all structures on site. And the applicant is proposing a project that is approximately 2,900 square feet, excluding the ADU. And it is inclusive of a 212 square foot basement, as well as a 237 square foot garage. And the proposed ADU is about 347 square foot. In terms of forest character, there are 15 lower canopy trees, 6 significant coastal live oak, 2 moderately significant coastal live oak, and 7 non-significant trees, 5 pruners, 1 fig, and 1 unknown species to the city forester. And the applicant is proposing to remove all the non-significant trees. And they are proposing 13 lower canopy and 1 upper canopy. Our city municipal code, it's a tree density standard, defines that 8,000 square foot lot requires a minimum of 4 lower and 5 upper canopy trees. And the city forest also recommends 4 lower and 5 upper canopy trees. And also the lot merger site coverage bonus requires that site compliance with the city's tree density standard. So the draft condition number 1 stipulates that the applicant shall plant 5 upper canopy trees, and the condition project is consistent with the design guidelines. In terms of privacy and view, it has minimal privacy and view impact. The ridge is similar to the height of the current structure. And the west elevation, the windows from the second floor window to the western neighbor's house is about 31 feet. And there are, on the north elevation, there's no direct view to the north neighbor's house. However, the north neighbor did have some concern about the second story window looking into his second floor bedroom. And the south neighbor is supportive of the project, and there's about 24 feet to the south neighbor's house from the windows, the south elevation. And additionally, the applicant is proposing low canopy trees as well as other vegetation along the north, south, and western property line that will provide further screening. And the project is consistent with the design guideline for privacy and view. In terms of mass and bulk, the proposed residence is compliant in terms of ridge and plate height throughout. And it is also compatible with the site and the adjacent properties. In terms of building a roof form, the applicant is proposing a gable roof form. It's an 8 and 12 pitch. And generally the 8 and 12 pitch is cheaper than the moderately pitched roof that is found and also preferred in Carmel. However, design guideline 8.4 does say that roof form should be proportional in scale and in design to the proposed building, and the 8 and 12 pitch appears proportional in scale and design to the proposed structure. And additionally, also the design guideline 9.1 encourages new building to be different in style from building on nearby or abutted properties. And the roof form of the neighbor to the north-south are moderately pitched with a mix of gable and hip roof form. And also the 8 and 12 pitch is different in style. And also the applicant has taken some design cues from the existing house. And the existing house does have a 9 and 12 pitch roof. In terms of parking and access, the Planning Commission may authorize a single car, detached garage, or carport not exceeding 12 feet in width or 250 square feet in floor area and 15 feet in height in the front yard setback. The proposed garage is much closer to the front property line, and also it's much taller than the existing one. And our ordinance as well as our design guideline encourages the parking to be subordinate and not to dominate the design of the main house. And the proposed garage does not seem to be subordinate to the primary house, and it is, as I stated, closer to the front property line, and is about approximately 3 feet above the proposed primary structure. And additionally, the proposed garage is on the same plane as the neighbor's garage. And the design guideline 4.4 encourages to stagger the structure of the adjacent properties to avoid a canyon effect. So if the planning commission has concerns about the prominence of the garage, the applicant could explore shifting it back or reducing the roof pitch on the garage. But however, staff recommends shifting the garage back and reducing the ridge height. And draft condition 6 states the applicant shall reduce the roof pitch of the garage from 8 and 12 to 4 and 12 and shift the garage back by 3 feet. In terms of site coverage, the project site is allowed 725 square feet of impermeable site coverage with the lot merger bonus. And they are proposing 369 square feet of impermeable site coverage, and it is consistent with the code regard to site coverage. In terms of the exterior light, they are proposing a coastal bronze shielded downlight fixture, and the light source would be 375 lumen output, which is accordance with our design guideline, and it is dark sky compliant. In terms of fence, at the front elevation, they're proposing a 4-foot-high reclaimed natural wood grapestake fence. And for the northwest and south elevation, they're proposing a 6-foot-high timber fence. And in terms of other finishing details, the applicant is proposing a wood burning outdoor fireplace. And the staff is requesting the planning commission to consider the appropriateness of the wood burning outdoor fireplace, because previously the planning commission has not supportive of fireplaces due to fire hazards as well as environmental concerns. And draft condition 7 requires an alternative to wood for the outdoor fireplace. And in other finishing detail, the applicant is proposing a white limestone siding and a charcoal slate shingle roof and steel windows with true divided light. Design guideline says metal windows are appropriate for modernistic influences in design. However, the proposed house is more traditional, and Assembly's wood window would be more suitable. And so, but however, staff would like some feedback on the planning commission on the appropriateness of the steel windows for this project. And draft condition number 11 requires the window to be wood or wood clad with the divided light. And this concludes my staff recommends the adoption of the resolution with the concept design with the conditions. And this concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Are there any questions from the commissioners for staff?
I've got one.
I have one too.
Commissioner Dells and Commissioner Allen.
Suri, I'm looking at the resolution that it's in our packet, and you mentioned item number 11, and I only have through 10.
That's right, Commissioner Delves. This was something that happened after I wrote the staff report and the resolution, and I could amend the resolution to add that condition.
And again, what the number 11 was, for windows, got it. Okay, thank you.
Sorry, when I read the packet, there was something around the fact that the garage appeared to be part of the mass of the home. And so I didn't necessarily hear that tonight when you were talking. Is there question that the placement of the garage or the size of the garage, is that what is giving that perspective that it increases the size or the perspective of the size, or how are we looking at that?
Yeah, the primary house, it seems to be in accordance with the mass, but the garage seems much larger and seems to give the appearance of something that's much larger than it should be. And mainly because it is unlike the existing garage, which is actually not in the front yard setback, but the proposed garage is in the front yard setback and is much closer to the street. And it is about a foot higher than, it's about a foot higher in the back. It's about another half-inch higher in the front. And due to that, it seems to be much larger than the primary house. And the ordinance says that it should be, it encourages parking to be subordinate and not dominate the design of the height or the site.
Okay, and the current garage is detached. Does the size of this, is that what gives it the illusion of being part of the home? Or so in your recommendation, you're saying reduce the size of the garage and potentially place it back due to guideline 4.3 around staggering the on the setbacks. Is that what you're saying?
That's one of them, to stagger it so it's not on the same plane as the garage to the neighbor, but also to reduce the mass of the garage by setting it back and reducing the roof, the ridge height, so it doesn't dominate the primary house.
Okay.
And
all right,
Commissioner Allen, can I add a little bit of color to Saray? So really the garage discussion is sort of focused on two fronts. One, it's focused on the massing conversation, which has to do with the overall home site. So that's one consideration for the Planning Commission, and you'd have to make the findings that is consistent with the massing regulations. And then the second consideration are those specific regulations that talk about the Planning Commission actually giving authority to put a garage in the front setback. So there's a whole nother set of rules controlling the garage with respect to that. So effectively, the Planning Commission needs to find that the garage in the front setback, there's the test is made to be able to grant that. Essentially, it's not a variance, but that exception. And also that the garage, when taken in combination with the entire site, meets the requirements and the guidelines about massing in general.
Okay. Thank you, Brandon.
Okay. Are there any more questions for staff? Okay, thank you. Okay, at this time, I'd like to invite the architect to make their presentation. I think you're not here.
Got it. Thanks. My name is Brett Moyer, and I'm with Richard Beard Architects. And accompanying me tonight is Matt Evans. He's the project manager and project designer on this project. Mitzi Hansen is on the call as well. That's our owner and applicant. And from Ground Studio, we have Johnson and Kate here to answer any questions you might have about the site plan. And I actually wanted to start, if I could, with a few comments about the site strategy. As you can see from the drawings, our goal was to really minimize the mass and bulk of the main house as viewed from the street. So similar to the existing house, we placed the primary room sort of in the middle of a garden, and then a small gable form that faces the street, while the two-story volume is presenting the short end to the street. All of that being a way to sort of minimize the bulk and mass as you're walking down the street. The other thing, of course, that does is it allows us to really inhabit the parts of the site that are already disturbed and preserve the rest of the site as the garden that it is. I think the other thing that was really motivating, the owners actually, they love the garden and all the trees and the property, obviously, but they also really like the house. So you're definitely seeing references to the existing home in both its materiality, its shape, its character, its architectural character, and in some ways also the materials. I wanted to just comment a little on the windows. It might not be obvious from the renderings, but we're not planning the common dark steel bronze that has become really common. We love those windows as well, but in this case, we found a finish of a material on steel that's a lot more like zinc. It's like a nice weathered, dark, medium gray, not dark gray, but medium gray. And I think it does kind of show up a little bit more on our material board here. Regarding the garage, I'm concerned that the view we picked may not be doing it any favors. When I was on site today, I think as you're walking down the street, the house does have more presence than it appears in this rendering. But we're certainly open to your input on its shape and its height. The other thing we've done since receiving these comments, I spent some time today wandering the neighborhood, and I have some concerns about the integrity if we change the height. If we change the roof pitch of the garage, we want them to appear of a whole. And so we'd want to take a look to make sure that lowering the roof pitch on the garage doesn't make them seem discontinuous. But that's something where it's very easy for us to study. I believe Matt's already started that effort. But I think our goal is to make sure that they feel unified, as we think they do here. I think that's all I have to share.
Thank you. Any members of your team want to take the rest of the time?
Johnson?
Hi, thanks everyone. Yes, we just wanted to say again, thank you for the time reviewing, and we appreciated all staff's comments and are in agreement with the conditions set forth, and have been coordinating with the city forester to address any of the concerns regarding the upper and lower canopy tree ratio. So otherwise, we remain available for questions.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. Are there any members of the public that would like to address the Planning Commission regarding this application? If so, please raise your hands this time or just speak up. David O'Neill, you have your hand up. You have the floor.
Hello, I just wanted to commend the architect and the owners on such a beautiful design, and how it really keeps the integrity of how the house was before, because it was really beautiful, tucked in the gardens like that. And I love the stone facade, it's so beautiful. I would ask that you maybe consider something of a little bit warmer color to make it sort of in keeping with the Carmel stone, but anyway, it's really beautiful. And I'd like to say that the windows are really fantastic. I know that they're not what we have in our design guidelines right now, but I think they would be in the design guidelines we're working on. And so I just wanted to say that. And the roof pitch, it looks fantastic the way it is. That's the way it's meant to look. And I think it would be really a shame if we lower it just because our design guidelines are a little bit dated. So that's all I have to say. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. Okay, Lucinda, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mayor LePage and members of the commission, city staff. One of the concerns that I had in just looking at this, not so much the plan, but is the color of the house. I've noticed recently driving around Carmel, it seems to me there are more stark, brilliant white houses with black trim. And I don't know if that's just the streets I've been driving on, but they stand out so much. And I would hope that exterior colors would become a little more natural, a little softer, integrated into the landscape of the streets. And that's all I have to say. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Cindy. Okay, do we have anybody else from the public that would like to address the Planning Commission? I don't see any hands going up. Nobody speaking out. Okay, I'm going to close the public comments, open it up to the commission for their comments. Commissioner Hallam, would you like to begin?
Sure. So I think that we do probably need to take a look at the garage. I do think that at least in the rendering and the way that it felt when I was there today during the tour, that potentially we could reduce the size of the garage. I do agree that due to the design, that the pitch should follow similar to the main home building. and I like to see houses that are unique, and this one feels unique to me. I appreciate the materials that they've chosen. And I do agree that we are seeing a lot of designs coming to the commission that have either white or cream. And that seems to be extremely popular right now. And it would be nice to have some variation in that if we could. But otherwise, I think that, oh, and then also I wanted to touch upon the wood burning fireplace. Is there a way that potentially that could be a gas fireplace or another option? Because I'm probably not a fan of approving the wood burning fireplaces anymore.
Thank you, Commissioner Allen. Commissioner Delps, your comments, please.
Yeah, what a pretty lot and what a thoughtful design. And thanks to the team for clearly reading our design guidelines and our code and understanding the importance of pedestrian scale and fitting with the neighborhood. That might be my favorite block in town. It's an elegant block. And I think you're proposing an elegant home. I hate to see the old one go. I think you do too. And I think the replacement certainly seems to have some respect for the existing structure. And certainly, as you said, for the garden and preserving so much of that south-facing garden, I think everyone will appreciate. I think staff, Suri, I think I'm looking at the conditions that they've put in. I think generally speaking, I'm going to agree with them. Number 7 on the wood burning outdoor fireplace basically says you shall submit an alternative to the wood burning fireplace. I'm going to support that. For the garage, I hear you on the pitch and changing. When you change that pitch and not the other pitch, that might just be wrong. So I think on that one, if I were to make the motion, I would not include changing the suggestion of changing the pitch. But I think I would support moving it back 3 feet, just for the sake of variety on the street. And then I'm going to echo comments on color. We talk a lot about white, and how white is that going to be, or how white and black is that going to be, and how much contrast are we going to have? And what we're looking for is not contrast. And I think everything you've done with this house, other than the garage, and you can't help the garage because it needs to be there, has been in the spirit of, if you're walking by on the street, the pedestrian will find great interest in what you've done. But I think if you introduce too much contrast in the color, suddenly that house starts to yell out to the street, look at me, look at me. And I know that's not what I want you to achieve, and I don't think that's what you want to achieve. So I think the color palette that you select, I don't know what it is, right? But I think let's not have this be black and white. Let's have it be more neutral, natural, whatever word you want to use. That's all I got.
Thank you, Commissioner Delps. Commissioner Bolton, your comments, please.
Sure. I appreciate the comments of my fellow commissioners and the public. I think they're excellent, and I basically agree with all of them. Just the highlights, the roof pitch of the garage should not change. It has to be the same as it is, has to match the house. The scale could be reduced potentially a small amount by maybe narrowing it a bit. I think it should be moved back, as Commissioner Delps says, just a touch. I'd like to see a little bit more streetscape variation in the depth. I understand your hands are tied a little bit in this particular case, and I appreciate that. And I know you've already tried, but a tiny bit of a step back might be possible without compromising the actual main house. This house is a wonderful design. You guys did a fantastic job. I really appreciate it. Because of that, I can't object to most of your decisions. So your steel windows are 100% appropriate. The stone is wonderful. The pitch of the roof is excellent, and everything works perfectly together. So congratulations on a wonderful design. It leaves me with a bit of a problem with the color, because you picked exactly the appropriate colors in my mind, and this house is exactly correct. So I wish we could change a few other white houses perhaps in the neighborhood that maybe don't have to be white, but that's not where we are, unfortunately. So I'm going to ask you, like everybody else, to take a look at the colors, because obviously you're exceptionally good at this, and maybe you'll prove me wrong in my statement that you've already picked the right color. So I support this. I think it's great. I really like this lot. I kind of wish the garage didn't have to be exactly where it is, but I don't see any options. So good job. I'm very excited to see the final product.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bolton.
Oh, I'm sorry. One more thing.
Yes, go ahead.
I love wood burning stoves. I love them inside. I love them outside. I'd like it to be huge and roaring, and just, you could have got all your neighbors over for wine. It'd be fabulous, but no, absolutely not. No wood burning fireplace outside. I'm sorry. That's not the world we live in anymore. I wish it was. My father designed umpteen exterior beautiful fireplaces that were really fun, and there's no way I would approve his now. So our hands are kind of tied here, and I can't approve anything that's a wood burning fireplace. But I think you could find a really nice gas fired appliance, as Commissioner Allen suggested. There are major improvements in the gas fired appliance world thanks to the fact that we're moving away from wood burning. So I think you'll find something really nice. Anyway, thank you. Sorry to jump back in.
Not a problem, Commissioner Bolton. Okay. Yeah, I just want to compliment. This is a very skilled architectural firm, and they have presented us with a very elegant design. I think they took their design cue from the existing building, and they came up with something that really is well sited on the lot. It's a beautiful lot. I mean, it's the size of the lot, and they've really done an excellent job. So I'm just going to focus my comments on the draft conditions, and I'm going to make it specific to the garage. I think the changing the pitch on the garage would make it not subordinate to the house. It would just make it stand out more. I do support setting it back an additional 3 feet, and also the architects may look at maybe lowering the plate height a little bit to make it a little less prominent. Having it so it isn't lined up with that other garage is going to give it some more interest and articulation along the street scene there. Wood burning fireplaces, we're not allowing those. It needs to be gas. The windows, I support the steel windows. The steel windows really are something that was developed prior to World War II, actually in the early part of the 20th century. They kind of relate back to factory style windows. They're gaining in popularity again because they have a very narrow extrusion, which gives them a very lightweight feel. And in this particular design, I think they're really well suited to it because the size and scale of the wall masses and the way the windows are placed and the width of them really fits the design. And this is something that really a skilled architect, they bring this to it. So I support those windows. As far as the contrast with the finishes, what we've been reacting to mostly are these white and black houses. I see this as really not that. I mean, as the architect indicated, the windows color is zinc. That's more of a type of gray. And I think with the limestone finish, you're going to get a lot of variation in terms of texture and color. So I don't see it as one of these absolute high contrasts. So I do support the materials that you have. You may take a look at that, although this is concept. If you find a material that you think is better, still works within what you're trying to do, you can bring that back to us. I'll leave that open to you. But I would recommend a motion where we accept the recommendations and draft conditions as presented by staff, but with the change that the fireplace would be that's there, that the garage will be set back 3 feet, but the pitch remain, and that the, I don't know if there's a draft, I guess there was a draft condition there about the windows that didn't get in the.
Yeah, number
11.
So just, you're saying just not have a number 11?
Yeah, just eliminate number 11. So that would be my recommendation. So I will entertain a motion from one of the commissioners.
I can make that motion exactly as represented by the chair.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion to accept the resolution as presented by staff with the deletion of draft condition number 11 and with change to draft condition number 6, where the garage roof pitch will remain at the 8 and 12, but they be a 3-foot setback from the property line. Is there any more discussion on this?
Yeah, just to clarify then on that we're not putting any condition on the color other than what's already in there. And since I seconded that,
yeah, but I think there's direction here from the commission to take a look at the materials and see if there's some variation in it, or come back and present us with a better mock-up.
Yeah, Chair had asked for a sample board, so I think that's probably good enough for me.
Okay.
That was my point. I don't think we need to modify.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we can leave it as it is.
Okay.
Agreed.
Right.
I think my original stand.
As does my.
Okay. Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Bolton?
Emphatic yes.
Commissioner Delves?
Yes.
Commissioner LePage?
Yes.
And Commissioner Locke is absent.
Okay, the motion to for the resolution as presented is passed. I look forward to seeing this project get final. I think we all do. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So much. Thanks for joining us, Mitzi.
Everyone's comments and all the time that you guys have taken, and to my lovely and wonderful team that I love.
Okay. The next item of the public hearings tonight is number 10. This is a design study. It's DS 22-226, the Givens Project's consideration of a concept design study application to demolish more than 50% of an existing 1,216 square foot single family residence and detached garage and construct a 1,470 square foot single story residence and detached garage located southeast corner of Torrey Street and Fifth Avenue. Can we have staff report, please?
Well, thank you, Chair LePage. So the project site is a 4,000 square foot lot. We refer to it as a re-subdivided corner lot. So it's 50 feet wide by 80 feet deep. It has a front setback requirement of 10 feet and a street side yard setback of 9 feet. So this is what differentiates it as a re-subdivided corner lot. The existing one-story residence is just over 1,000 square feet, and the site includes a detached garage that is under 200 square feet. So the total existing square footage is a little over 1,200 square feet. The applicant is proposing to demolish more than 50% of the existing walls and construct a new 1,200 square foot residence with a new detached garage that's 265 square feet. So the proposed total square footage is 1,470 square feet, which is a net increase of a little over 250 square feet. The existing residence has a non-conforming east wall. Apologize for the typo there. This wall is located in the side yard setback, and the applicant is proposing to retain this wall. If it is removed during construction, it will be required to be relocated at least 3 feet from the property line. However, at this time, that is not the intent. During the preliminary site assessment, the city forester identified 20 trees on or adjacent to the property. All 20 trees have been rated significant. There are currently 5 upper canopy and 15 lower canopy trees. And none are proposed for removal. The existing detached garage is located in the rear yard setback. The applicant is proposing to demolish and reconstruct the garage. The code does allow garages in the rear setback as long as they are limited to 15 feet in height. The applicant is proposing a garage that is 12 feet, 11 inches tall. However, that is that will be actually lower. The code also says that garages located in the rear setback cannot impact any trees. Again, the existing garage is in the setback. The new garage is largely in the same location. However, any excavation within the root zone of any adjacent trees will require prior approval by the city forester. The code also states that garages in the rear setback must comply with the design guidelines. One of those guidelines is that the garage be subordinate to the main house. So after the story poles were installed, the applicant realized that the massing of the garage was much taller than they had originally anticipated. So they are proposing to reduce the height of the garage, and this will make it subordinate to the house. Staff has memorialized this in condition number 2, that the height be reduced so that it is lower than the residence. The project also includes some new skylights. So the existing home has 3 skylights. They are all 30 by 30. They're located in the 2 bathrooms with 1 in the kitchen. The applicant is proposing 4 new skylights. So removing the 3 existing and then installing 4 total. Actually 2 would be in the primary bath, 1 would be in the secondary bath, and then 1 in the kitchen. The applicant is proposing to equip them all with blackout shades. And based on staff site visit, we do not believe that they will be visible from the public way. With regards to the roof form, the existing residence has basically two roof forms that are sloping in different directions with different pitches. The home also has eave depths that vary throughout. The applicant is proposing to replace the roof with a consistent 1.5 and 12 pitch, sloping all from west to east with consistent 12-inch eave depths. And the garage would also have the same slope as the residence. The proposed exterior light fixtures are common fixtures that we've seen. They do comply with our requirements for being shielded, and they are within the permitted lumen levels. And with respect to site coverage, on the left, you can see the existing site coverage is identified in the reddish color. All the existing site coverage is proposed to be removed, and all new site coverage will comply with current standards, with a minimum of half being permeable. So there are some existing encroachments in the public right-of-way. There are some stairs along 5th Avenue which are proposed to be removed. There is a retaining wall at the northwest corner of the property. That wall is proposed to remain. And then there are 2 retaining walls at the existing driveway along Torres Street. The applicant is looking to shift the driveway to the south, retaining the existing wall on the north side of the driveway, building a second wall along the relocated driveway, and then shifting the south wall to the new driveway location. This does require an encroachment permit, and so staff has included a condition that the applicant apply for and go through that process before final details. And if those encroachments are not approved, then the driveway design would be reevaluated before final details. And while this is concept, the applicant has provided the proposed colors, finishes, materials for the home. So we're going to go ahead and share those with the commission this evening. The siding of the home is proposed to be a composite straight edge shake siding in a light gray color. The applicant's proposing aluminum clad wood windows painted white, and we already talked about the light fixtures. The existing south or west facing patio is currently fenced in, and the applicant would like to replace that fence with a horizontal board fence. And they're proposing a stone veneer for the walls. So with that, staff's recommendation is that the commission accept the concept design with conditions. The applicant will be required to go through a volume study before final details. They will be reducing the height of the garage. Staff also included a condition to reduce the driveway width, just to make sure that the minimum amount of paving needed for access is utilized. Obtain the encroachment permit for the driveway retaining walls, provide a lighting plan, and then also providing product information for the roof material. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there questions for staff from the commission?
I have two.
Mr. Dells?
Yeah, Marnie, you said the roof looks like a very low pitch roof, and you said it drains from west to east. And the concern is that you're draining the roof to the east where that pre-existing wall is, and there's really just inches, maybe a foot or two really, but between the two homes there. And are we directing the runoff of that roof to the wrong place? And is that the current condition, that it drains that way?
I don't believe that's the current condition, at least not for the entirety of the roof. Before final details, the applicant will also be developing a preliminary drainage plan, as well as a landscape plan. And so we can further evaluate where they are directing their runoff, because we certainly do not want to direct it, towards the property to the east.
Okay, so I think that for now, that's the answer I would look for. And then secondly, there was a very large stump in the right-of-way on Torres. I mean, it was massive, looked like maybe an old eucalyptus tree. And the future of that would seem to be important, like it would go away. And would that alter anything?
So I think we'll need to take a closer look at that. That was not on my radar.
Yeah, that kind of seems to be on the, I don't know if that's the forester or public works. It would seem to be the opposite out of there. Yeah. And it would probably be a city stump at this point.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Are there any other questions from the commissioners for staff? Okay, thank you, Marnie. All right, this time I'd like to invite the applicant to make their presentation to the commission.
Okay, can you hear us okay?
Yes, go ahead, Anna.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Marnie. I just want to share a revised elevation. So yes, after erecting the story poles, we realized that that design was not quite meeting our design objectives and did not provide a balancing of the masses there. So for those of you who could join on the tour today, our own Erin Rose did an interpretive story pole miming exercise where she positioned her tape measure to the desired roof height, which you'll see here in this revised elevation. So just sharing this with you, and this meets that condition to reduce it, the roof height below the height of the primary house roof. So that was my primary point I wanted to share, and then if we want to address the driveway, Marnie, but open to any questions you might have.
that's you're concluding your presentation? I'm sorry.
Yep, that's it. Just wanted to share this revised elevation here so you could see it. It doesn't quite appear, in real life, it just, with the slope of the driveway and the positioning of the garage, it looked good on paper originally, but after the story poles went up, was too massive. So this is it revised and on paper here.
Okay. Is there anyone else from your team that wants to say anything?
One thing I'd like to point out is that we're trying to bring the entry out of the courtyard. Right now, it's a very informal entry, but to make it more welcoming from the street so that it's obvious where you come into this home. And so we've now moved the front door out to Torres Street with an overhang to accentuate it.
Okay, thank you for bringing that to our attention. All right, does that conclude your presentation?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Okay, at this time, I'd like to invite any members of the public to make comments to the Planning Commission regarding this application. I don't hear anybody. I don't see any hands going up. I have you.
Chair, there's a hand up.
There is a hand up.
For some reason, I just have a full screen. I'm sorry, I can't.
Looks like Lucinda Lloyd has their hand up.
Okay, Cindy, go ahead.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Chairman LePage, members of the commission, city staff. This is rather a personal observation. When I saw the plans and the elevation of this house, it reminded me so much of the houses my dad designed and built post-World War II. And so it feels very familiar and very comfortable, but that's only my perspective. It's nice, it's tidy, it's small, it's comfy. And I don't think I need to say more than that. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Cindy, for your comments. I remember your dad was a builder, and he did build a lot of mid-century modern houses in his career. Is there anyone else in the public that would like to make comments regarding this application? I don't see any hands going up. I don't hear anybody. So I'm going to close the public comments, open it up to the commissioners for their comments. Commissioner Bolton, would you like to begin?
I certainly can. I don't have a whole lot to say on this one. I'm just pleased that this new elevation is in front of us because it looks so much better. I didn't go on the tour, but I did drive by these places and stopped at all the properties, and I thought that the garage looked quite high. So this is good. So I can basically support it, although I am a bit chagrined. I didn't pick up on the whole sloping to within inches of the neighbor roof issue. Thank you, Commissioner Dells. So I will echo his concern about that. I need to look at these plans again, but I think that could be a potential problem, and it should probably be at least considered. That's all. I don't really have much.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Bolton. Commissioner Dells, you want to make your comments?
Yeah, I surprised myself in finding that one, Chris. I have really nothing to add. I think this is a great example of a kind of a classic 70-year-old home, as Ms. Lloyd said, representative of many of the homes that were built at that time after World War II, and giving it, another 70 years of useful life. And I applaud that. So I'm supportive.
Thank you, Commissioner Dells. Commissioner Allen, your comments, please.
Yeah, I have very similar comments to my fellow commissioners, and I do think that it is a very thoughtful design. The one thing that I did want to maybe suggest is that the horizontal fence be reconsidered. I actually don't think that it's I don't know, classy enough or enough for this design. I think the home looks really great, and in the rendering, the horizontal fence kind of brought the design down for me, but that's just a side note. But otherwise, I think everything else looks great.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Allen. We have a resolution from staff. I don't have a lot to add. I think this is a nice, simple design. As Commissioner Dell said, it's a nice update to the house. It's obviously kind of a mid-century modern design, and we see those in our architectural history of this community. And designers done a nice job. They reacted very quickly to the elevations on the garage, and so the resolution, as per staff, draft conditions are pretty standard, volume steady. They already addressed number 2, the detached garage height, the driveway width, the lighting path, encroachment permit, and the roof materials. So I didn't hear any of the commissioners have anything that needed to be added, with the exception of maybe
the drainage
fence design.
Oh, yeah. And also I know that the drainage will be there will be a drainage plan, but I don't know if we want to include that in part of what we're saying.
I think that's a standard condition of the final drainage plan. So I don't think we need to include it in our draft, this resolution. So would you like to make a motion, Commissioner Allen?
Sure. I would motion that I'll go with the staff recommendations.
Okay, did you want to add a draft recommendation or direction about the fence?
Well, if, it's personal preference, I'm sure. And so if none of the other commissioners feel the same, then I'm fine with not adding that in.
Okay, so you're electing not to add it in. All right. Do we have a motion to accept the resolution as per staff with I think we just delete draft condition number 2 because that's already been addressed. Is that correct? Yeah, it already has been. So do we have a second to that motion?
Yeah, I can second.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Bolton. Is there any more discussion on this item? Hearing none, can we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Bolton?
Yes.
Commissioner Delves?
Yes.
Commissioner LePage?
Yes.
And Commissioner Locke is absent.
Okay, the motion is carried to adopt the resolution. Thank you very much. It's a nice presentation. Okay, I don't know how about the rest of you feel. I need like a 10-minute break here. So can we take a 10-minute break? We'll meet back, say at 6:12.
Yeah, and Chair, I believe the next one is I'm recused on, just so you know, so I will not be coming back right away. So you can start without me.
Okay.
I'll be monitoring, so I'm listening, but I don't expect
That's
me. Item number 11.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you for reminding me.
No trouble. Thank you.
Okay. We'll see you in 10 minutes. Okay. We're back. Can we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Allen?
Here.
Commissioner Bolton?
Here, but recused on the first item.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Thank you. Commissioner Delves?
Here.
And Commissioner LePage?
Here.
And
Okay.
Commissioner Locke is still absent.
Right. Okay. The next item on the public hearing tonight is a design study. This is DS 22-312, the Ahmad project's consideration of a track 1 design study referral for the installation of 7 new skylights on an existing residence located on Torres Street 4 northeast of 3rd Avenue. Can we have a staff report, please?
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Evan.
All right, so the subject property is located on Torres 4 northeast at 3rd. On August 26th of this year, a stop work order was issued by the building inspector for the installation of interior skylight framing. These were noted as part of a roofing inspection, as part of an associated re-roof permit. The building inspector directed the contractor to obtain a design study approval for the skylights prior to their installation. On September 29th, the design study application was submitted for the after-the-fact approval of the 7 partially installed skylights. And then there's also 2 existing skylights on the residence that are proposed to remain. So there would be a total of 9 skylights throughout the residence. On November 3rd, staff sent a completeness determination letter to the applicant. That letter stated that the application was complete but cannot be approved due to identified conflicts with the residential design guidelines. And staff gave direction to either modify the plans to comply with the residential design guidelines, or the project would be referred to the Planning Commission for resolution. The municipal code states that projects that comply with zoning regulations but do not comply with design objectives or residential design guidelines will be referred to the Planning Commission for resolution. The property owner elected to refer the project to the Planning Commission instead of remove the skylights. So that is why the project is before you today. So the project is for the installation of 7 new skylights. On the north roof form, there are 4 2x2 skylights. As you can see, the approximate locations here. And then on the southern roof form, 2 2x4 skylights, and then 1 2x2 skylights. And then there are also 2 existing 2x4 skylights that are proposed to remain. So these are all the skylights that are proposed, as well as the location of the 2 existing skylights. All the skylights throughout are proposed to be the low profile skylights with the solar shades. However, staff has identified 2 of the skylights in question to be in conflict with the residential design guidelines. So before approving an application for design review in any district, the Director, Historic Preservation Board, or the Planning Commission shall find that the final design plans, 1, conform with the applicable policies of the general plan and the local coastal program, 2, comply with all applicable provisions of this code, and 3, are consistent with applicable adopted design review guidelines. So in staff's opinion, the 2 skylights on the northernmost roof form conflict with the residential design guidelines, and therefore finding number 3 cannot be made. So the skylights in question are these 2 skylights. The approximate location is right here. So it's the northern roof form located, the 2 skylights closest to the street. So while 7 skylights are proposed, in addition to the 2 existing skylights, the 2 skylights there are 2 skylights to be in conflict with the residential design guidelines. Staff is supportive of the inclusion of the remaining 5 skylights, as there does not appear to be a direct impact with any of the neighboring properties due to the existing site conditions such as setbacks, building height, and window placements, and they also don't appear to be visible or minimally visible from the right-of-way. The subject skylight staff has identified to be in conflict with the residential design guidelines are located at the northwest corner of the residence and are above the kitchen area. This portion of the roof is visible for nearly the entirety of Torres Avenue between 2nd Avenue and the subject property. And while none of the other 5 skylights proposed are visible from the street, these 2 skylights identified above would be visually prominent from the street as discouraged by the residential design guidelines. Additionally, the residential design guidelines also state that the size, placement, and number of skylights should be an integral part of the building design, and that the placement and size that appears random from the exterior and that detracts from the architectural integrity should be avoided. The northern roof form is visible from the street, and from certain vantage points, all 6 of the skylights from the north, the 4 proposed and then the 2 existing, would be visible from the street. And then further, the design guidelines state that skylights are appropriate when interior spaces have no access to exterior windows or that such windows have limited access to light. So the property owner has stated that the interior of the kitchen does not have adequate access to light. However, the kitchen does have 2 windows on the north elevation and 1 on the west. So staff's recommendation is to adopt a resolution approving a portion of the after the fact request for the installation of 5 skylights and denying the installation of 2 skylights at the subject property. There's also 2 alternatives. One, if the Planning Commission is inclined to grant the after-fact approval of the skylights in accordance with the municipal code, the Planning Commission can adopt findings that the deviations from the design guidelines achieves all of the applicable design objectives in the code equally or better than would have been achieved by adherence to the design guidelines, and those findings are outlined in the staff report. And then the second alternative is that the Planning Commission could find that the after-the-fact skylights do not conflict or deviate from the design guidelines at all. And if you choose to go that route, the Commission should make findings to that effect. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Sorry, I'm having technical difficulties. Any questions for staff from the commissioners? Everybody shaking their head no? Okay, all right. Thank you, Aaron. I'd like to invite the applicant at this point to speak to the commission.
So I'm not sure that the applicant is on. I received an email maybe a half hour or so ago saying that it was a kind of cryptic, but it didn't appear that they were going to be able to attend.
Okay.
That was the message that I picked up from the email.
Okay. All right. Is there anyone from the public that would like to make comments to the Planning Commission regarding this application? I don't see any hands going up. I don't hear anybody. Oh, there's a hand. David O'Neill, you have the floor.
Hi, thank you so much. I think it's a really nice little house. I think it's very pretty, but the roof with the standing seam and then the lines on the side of the house really clashes. It's too many lines. And also in the design guidelines, they don't make any recommendation for metal roofs. And maybe they should in the future, but right now they don't. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. I believe the question tonight, though, we're reviewing is just the skylights, not the roof material.
I'm so sorry. I'm tired. It's about the wrong house.
Oh,
sorry.
Okay. Not a problem. Save those comments. Good comments.
Thanks.
All right. Is there anyone else in the public that would like to make any comments to the Planning Commission regarding this application? I don't see any hands going up. Okay, I'm going to close the public comments. Open it up to the commission. Commissioner Allen, would you like to begin?
I would like to go with the staff's recommendation.
Okay. Commissioner Delves?
I would like to point out that someone from the public is already tired and it's just 6:30. I agree with Commissioner Allen. I think I could spend a lot of time talking about this application. I'm not going to. I think staff has it exactly right. Even if I wanted to approve the additional 2 skylights, I can't make the finding that is required to do so. Therefore, I support the staff recommendation to approve the other 5.
Okay, the chair is going to make a resolution that we adopt the resolution as presented by staff.
I second that.
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded. Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Delves?
Yes.
Commissioner LePage?
Yes.
And Commissioner Bolton has recused, and Commissioner Locke is absent.
Okay, the resolution is approved to approve 5 skylights. Okay, thank you. All right, the last item on our agenda tonight, Mr. Bolton's back. Good to see you. Is item number 12. This is a design study, 22077, the Junipero investors, consideration of a final design study and associated coastal development permit for the demolition of an existing single-family residence and construction of a new 1,795 or 55, I can't read that, sorry, square foot, 1-story single-family residence and attached garage on Junipero Avenue, 6 northeast of 8th Avenue. Staff report, please.
Chair LePage, just to let you know, unfortunately, staff's going to be recommending, even though there is a staff report, staff needs to recommend continuance to this item. Unfortunately, the applicant team was not able to post the noticing as required on time. They were very, very honest and about it. They said they had a miscommunication internally. Nobody's fault. It just happened. So unfortunately, the noticing did not make it out in time for this one, and we cannot hear it. So we're recommending continuance.
Okay, all right. Are there any comments from the public? Don't hear any comments regarding the continuation. Okay, the chair makes a motion to continue this item to a date uncertain. Is that correct?
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Bolton?
Yes.
Commissioner Delves?
Yes. Commissioner
LePage?
Yes, the motion is carried to continue this to a date uncertain.
You guys didn't need me to come back at all. Oh, no, I want to hear the director's report, of course. I'm sorry, Brent.
That's right.
Worth the price of admission.
We're not done with you.
Yeah.
Okay, that concludes the public hearings tonight, and our next item on our agenda is director's report.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. My top hat and I would like to give you all a nice report tonight. I felt in the spirit of your Santa Claus hat, Mr. Chair, I should join in the party. So a couple of updates for you. City Hall is going to be closed starting December 23rd and reopening on January 3rd, just for anyone who's curious. So if you have business at City Hall, please come in before that. Our scanning and digitizing project, which we've all been tracking along with, continues to go really well. We're about 85% done, and we are on target to have that completely done in late January, early February of next year. So every single property in town by the first month or two of next year will have their property files online. And that's been just such a huge benefit for the public and for staff and for folks out in the industry. So we're really proud of that, and it's freed up a lot of space in our offices too. Design Traditions 1.5 project is moving along really nicely. We are planning on having a red line draft of the residential guidelines done in January or February, which can go out to the public, which will then also find us back in front of you in that similar time frame for a conversation about those guidelines. We're shooting for our next community meeting in March of 2023, so things are progressing really nicely. Right on the heels of those residential guidelines, you'll see the commercial guidelines come out as well. So it'll be a nice package by the time we get to March. Recently, the City Council adopted that historic context statement update that you all saw a couple months ago. It was very well received. Kudos again to the long-range planning team here, consisting of Marnie and Catherine. They did a wonderful job with that. It's an excellent document. If you haven't read the whole thing, I know it's a massive document, but it is actually an interesting read. It's worth reading, and there's really cool facts in there. I talked about one last week on the Friday Letter, how in the early 1900s, Frank Powers went and lobbied in Washington, D.C. for the city's first post office. That's how we got a post office. Frank Powers actually went to D.C. and lobbied to get a post office here. It was 8 post office boxes, the very first post office in the city of Carmel-by-the-Sea, and it was in our general store. So fascinating things in there like that. I mean, that's just a little tidbit. So it's worth the read, especially for folks that are involved in what's going on in the city. Lastly, I just want to personally thank you all on behalf of myself and the entire community planning and building team. Thank you, commissioners, for a wonderful 2022. My second year here in the city with you, but it was a wonderful year. Been so honored to work with such a dedicated group of volunteers. And, myself, my staff, we get a paycheck for coming in here. You don't. You just get yelled at and have to get sleepy with all these meetings we're having. So I really want to recognize you and thank you all for that. You do that out of the kindness of your hearts and your love and passion for this community. And I really value the relationship that I have with you all personally and that you have with my staff. I've worked with other planning commissions, and you are exceptionally respectful of the staff. You're strong in your views of how the code works, but you're also able to listen to staff's recommendations and have really, really good conversations back and forth. So that's a nice quality in a planning commission. So I feel very lucky for myself and my staff to get to work with you. This time of year is all about, kindness and grace and generosity, which are values that we should have all year long, but we're reminded of that every year at this time. So I just want to thank you all for your kindness and generosity and grace that you have in what you do, and just, remind everyone to keep that up all year long. It's not something we should just think about at this time of year, but it's really, those are the values that we should all share and give with each other all year long. So thank you all for Wonderful 22. A little fascinating tidbit for you before I shut up. I did just a quick sort of back of the envelope calculation, and we as a body got through 75 public hearing items in the year of 2022. That included development projects like the one we went through tonight, appeals and referrals, and also that includes some of the major policy discussions that we covered, like wireless ordinances, design traditions, things like that. So, give yourselves a hearty pat on the back. That's a lot. And I haven't done it yet, but maybe for January, I'll go back and look at the last couple of years and see how we've trended. But I do know that even though these are long meetings, we have worked with the chair and worked with the commission, my staff, we've adjusted our rules of procedure to try to make the meetings a little more streamlined. Even though they go long, we get a lot of really good work done. So kudos to you and thanks for a wonderful 2022.
Okay, thank you, Brandon. I just want to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. I'm looking forward to working with you and seeing you all next year. So have a great holiday season. Thanks for everything.
Thanks,
we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Happy holidays.
Good night, everyone.
Holidays. Bye.
Bye.